eccentric wizard, that would be Tuck. And yep, he's just super cool and lots of information, and glad to have him around. Anyway, so um, Gidget, you want to just talk about yourself a little bit, how you came to the path, that kind of thing? Can you hear me?
Um,
Can you hear me now?
well, I kind of had the, standard Christian upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, didn't know anything about witchcraft, paganism,
Mm-hmm.
nothing till about 2 years ago when I met Tuck,
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of like rolled the dice and was like, "Hey, this is what I am. Interested?" And I just kind of rolled the dice and was like, "Sure, I'm happy to learn."
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of went from there.
Yeah. I understand. For me, it was more kind of an awakening. I've been pagan for a long time. I've been polytheistic for just about forever, I think. And it just took kind of a light bulb moment here about 5 years ago. I was like, oh, that's what that is. That's why I believe this. That's why I see things this way or feel things this way. So, yeah, just kind of a shocker for
Yeah, I
me,
never
but.
really had like the belief in anything. I mean, we did the Christian thing, but
Mm-hmm.
I like hid comic books and the Bible, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I was that kid.
Yeah.
Like just kind of sat there and yeah, I don't care. So 2 years ago it was, hey, you want to try something different? And it just clicked with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I was like, I wish I had discovered this long before 36. Like, I discovered this at 36. I should have discovered this at 16.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally understand. Um, it's like, how much more fulfilling would your life have been if you hadn't been confused for so many years?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
understand.
I've done so much better in the last 2 years with things than I've done in 20.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I totally believe it. Totally believe it. Totally. Um, what I guess do you identify with a particular pantheon, or are you more of an eclectic
I
type, or?
don't. I'm actually secular,
Okay.
so I don't incorporate deities in my practice.
Okay.
Um, just more elemental,
Mhm.
is mainly what I work with.
Mhm. Okay. And now, do you have like a coven or circle or grove locally,
I
or?
don't. I work with Talk when I can.
Mhm.
Um, there is distance between us, so I don't get to see him very often.
Just a few months.
Um, I have two local friends
Mhm.
that are witches.
Mhm.
When I can, we can sometimes get together and do things. I have a girl I talk to quite frequently that's in Colombia, just moved to Canada, and is planning a visit here.
Mhm.
And we communicate with each other quite frequently, but not really anything, set in stone.
Mhm.
Pretty
So,
much do the solo
yeah, more of
act.
a solo artist. Yeah. Solitary. Yes. It seems like a lot of us
Yeah.
really are solitary, even if there is a strong pagan presence in our community. Just because I'm an eclectic, and so there's just not as much of a connection to some of the local pagan groups, and I don't know. I just don't have that
I mean, I
connection.
live right outside a major city.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if I really wanted to, I could start like reaching out to people in the city, but
Mhm.
I don't know. One, I don't like driving into the city traffic.
I
And
understand.
two, I don't know. I'm iffy about that with meeting new people and working
Mhm.
in a group. And
Yeah, 'cause
I'm kind
growth
of
are
good with like
different.
the people I know and have
Exactly.
known for a while.
Mhm.
I don't want to just like go to a group and be the newcomer. Nobody likes that.
Yeah, I hate being the new kid. I really hate being the new kid, so I understand. Um, what's one of the biggest challenges you've found as a solitary practitioner,
Oh, um,
or some of the challenges? I know there's not just one. It's an adventure, right?
yeah, definitely. That are bigger that you could definitely use some help on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like floating solo, and there's only so much I could do, versus if I worked with other people, there'd be a lot more power behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's mainly like the only thing. Otherwise, I kind of prefer working solo.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand. Now, do you use is it mostly ritual work or spells or
Mostly spells.
okay?
Mostly spells. I don't know if I do so much ritual work, because to me that gets into a lot of deity work,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't have.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you
kind of
just
stick mostly to spell work.
okay. Now, Gidget, are you just not drawn to any of the pantheons, or
It's more of I believe in all of them
okay?
and don't really want to eeny, meeny, miny, mo with it, because I just feel like that's fake.
Okay.
I want to have like a strong connection, and I believe in all of them.
Okay.
So,
No, that's fair. Um, even
and I'm not from a specific region, or I don't have that cultural connection that a lot of people have. So that's where I'm at.
all right. No, I understand that. Even before I really started focusing in on any particular pantheon, I always talked to the moon. When I was out driving or road tripping or barbecuing, bonfire, any of that. I always, greeted the moon at the full moon and watched for the moon, throughout the cycle, the lunar cycle. And I've always felt that connection to the moon. And I never really attributed it to a deity specifically until probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And as I started getting more into my own personal path, and then it's like, I started tuning with Hecate, for instance, because it made sense at that time, and I associated the moon with Hecate. But even in like a Wiccan tradition, it's not necessarily a particular pantheon specifically. Which, by the way, we are going to talk about traditions next week. It was planned for last night, but the paranormal portal technology monster came to visit and kind of sucked the energy just right out of me. It was awesome. And so yeah, instead I read a book and did some studying. It was good for me, and I went to bed early. So, so yeah, we'll talk about the different traditions next week. The Alexandrian, the Crowley, excuse me, the Gardnerian, etc. But anyways, I know that in Wicca, often it's just the female deity and the masculine deity. They're not really given any particular names or anything like
Right.
that. It's just the deity. So is it more like a Wiccan practice, or are you more
Yeah, I think
Druidic?
I think I'd kind of like go with that more than a specific one. It's like I feel something more, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what to call it or who to call it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just intangible at this point.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. No, I understand. It's so in the past year, Kanunos has really made his presence known for me personally, and it had to be pointed out by a friend of mine. And once she did, it was like, oh, duh! It was totally a smack my face moment. Just boom. Like, oh, if I had just been paying attention, how much further would I be on my path right now if I had realized in the,
Yeah,
made
and I
that
wonder
connection.
that too. Like, am I missing things?
Mm-hmm.
You
And
know? Like,
that's
I
really
have to stop and wonder about that.
that's the
And I'm just
downside of being
kind
a
of hoping maybe somebody
soloist.
will help me with that too. Like, oh, you're
Exactly.
missing things. These
Mm-hmm.
are signs. Pick
Exactly.
up on it.
Exactly. And that's that desire to learn and to communicate with people who are fellow practitioners, but not necessarily next door, is how I got into the amino world. I just Googled pagan social groups, and that's went into the aminos, which for anybody who's ever been into aminos, it seems to be really focused on K-pop. Not my gig, not my jam, but it's amusing. And from there, it's just this big social media conglomerate. It's similar to Facebook, but structured differently. There's individual channels or groups that have different affinities, just for those who don't know what an amino is. And I joined one that was full of kids, and I learned a few things. Mostly, I found out that I am too old for most of those kids, so I went looking for other places, and here I am in Idaho, and so Idaho pagans, and so it's like, woohoo! I found my people. At least we're in the same state. Granted, Idaho's kind of long,
Right.
and that's how I met Gidget. And
I'm
so,
in there, but I'm not from Idaho. I'm the adopted Idahoan.
and that's okay. I think there's a lot of adopted Idahoans at this point, just because a lot of people come here. And there's
Yeah, I've been adopted.
Oh yeah. Well, I know Tuck is from southern Idaho, and he's pretty staunchly Idahoan, I think, even if he does travel a fair bit. So,
42 years, I think he said,
yeah, something like that.
that he's lived there. Something like that.
Something like that.
I could be wrong, but I swear that's what it was.
Even I'm a transplant. We moved here when I was in first grade. And so, a standing joke, I'm not telling anybody how old I am. It's up to other people to guess. Because I have children, I have grandchildren. And I came here when logging was still a big thing. So, yeah, it was, I've been here for a while. So, but
Well,
yeah, I
his
feel
dad
like
was military, and he was born on a base in Connecticut.
Oh, gotcha.
But I know he's lived in Idaho for like forever.
Mm-hmm. The mountains are home for me. So I wouldn't want to be
I
anywhere
want
else.
mountains so bad.
I'm telling you, you need to come
There
visit.
are no mountains in Illinois.
No, there really aren't. I'm originally from the Midwest. You can pretend there's mountains when the thunderheads roll in, but that's just about it.
Maybe the traffic cones.
Yeah, traffic cones. There you go. Yeah, the road construction. Well, the I-29 corridor has the lovely bluffs, and they do. There is one ski resort just north of Omaha in Council Bluffs, which is for anybody who lives in any mountainous region whatsoever. It's not really it's like a bunny slope, but it's my speed. I follow a style. I don't ski. So, but it's fun. And anyway, so back to the aminos. So yeah, met my people, and it's been kind of an adventure. It's been awesome, really connecting with other people on this path, though. Even if I'm never going to see them, because we can bounce ideas off one another, and just kind of communicate a little bit, because there is a lot out there that you just aren't going to understand if you don't communicate with others, and you don't have a chance
and
to.
it's a blogging platform, so there's so much to read.
Yes, there is, and I like that. One of the other groups I'm in, we've got kind of a book of shadows going, which it is, but it isn't. It's more just a collection of stuff. But there's the wikis that talk about just how to do different things, what different things mean, and it's just, there's a lot of really good information. Now, just like any other source of information, there's some BS too, unfortunately. But it's also,
I was just going to mention that you do have to be careful of the misinformation. But
exactly.
overall, as a whole, I found a lot of it to be pretty accurate.
It is. And just like any other group or research or educational program that you're doing, you just got to kind of pay attention to what's going on, and do some research. Some things are going to resound with you, some things just aren't. So anyways, one of the reasons why I wanted you on the show with me, Gidget, is basically so I have someone to talk to other than myself. Because while yes, the sound of my own voice is glorious, sometimes I want to break it up and talk to someone. So, and unfortunately, 9:00 my time is middle of the night everywhere else, just about, or the crack of dawn in the UK. So not everybody's tuning in. But I found this really, really great article when I was doing some research the other day. It's titled "What Not to Say When You Meet Someone Who is Pagan," and it made me giggle a lot because there's a
It's
lot
good
of.
for a giggle.
It was really good for a giggle. Anyways, I thought maybe we talk about it a little bit because I know that I have heard some things as a pagan that kind of make me roll my eyes, and I'm sure you have too. So just what's the worst thing you've or how out of the broom closet are you first?
Um, I pretty much I swung the gates wide open.
You just opened the gates and ran for
I
the
did the
hills.
whole like, I'm a witch. Can you pass the potatoes?
How'd that go over? Was it good or was it yeah okay or
Um, yeah, I got some goofball looks, but
yeah?
really the only one that's kind of not so happy about it would be my mother-in-law. But whatever.
Well, she's your mother-in-law. It's kind of her job, right?
Yeah, that's kind of her job. So yeah, she's like, no summoning a demon into the house, and I was like, I'll get right on that.
Oh gosh. Yeah, perfect segue into this article. Oh my gosh. So I'm gonna read parts of it, and it's on HuffPost. And if anybody wants the link, I'll probably put it in the show notes somewhere because it's hilarious. Um, because these are things I've actually heard people ask, not necessarily of myself, but others, and it's highly amusing. So, what not to say when you meet someone? All right, yeah, gonna turn me into a toad is the first one, of course, just right there. So, the word pagan carries undeniably negative connotations. Dating back to the initial spread of Christianity, pagans were those who continued worshiping a pantheon of local deities, and were considered thus to be barbarians bound for eternal hellfire. Of course, religious leaders to this day still use this term to call out people of any faith whose greed or worldly lust causes them to stray from the flock. I think that's true too. So, for droves of practicing pagans around the world, numbers of which are difficult to measure, these connotations present a public relations nightmare, making it difficult to share the reality of their faith when confronted with de facto bias. Nonetheless, many pagans are excited to talk about their spirituality. I am, mostly, and answer questions from curious friends and acquaintances. Yes, but insulting them with jokes about witches on broomsticks is not going to help facilitate dialogue. So HuffPost Religion asked prominent pagan leaders and writers for tips on what people can do when they meet someone who identifies as a pagan or find out their cousin, nephew, colleague, friend, etc. Has a earth-based spirituality. So, helpful guide here: what to ask or not to ask, and some other alternatives. So, first question, and I want your feedback, Gidget, before we talk about what's in here. So it says, when someone first tells you that you're pagan, don't make it awkward. Is that what your mother-in-law did? Kind of made it awkward, or?
Kinda, yeah, because I was doing a tarot reading,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like, "What are you doing there, summoning a demon?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm sitting here with cards, and I'm just going to conjure up a demon. It's right there, right on the bed."
Sure, why not? You're just gonna get right on that, aren't you?
Right? Like I was sitting on my bed doing a tarot reading. I think if I was going to conjure a demon, I wouldn't be doing it on my bed.
Right? I mean, there are other places to do that kind of mischief. So, the article says mostly people should avoid making a face, averting their eyes, laughing uncomfortably, trying to say something cute or clever, or ending the conversation abruptly. That's what pagan leader Lori Lovecraft told HuffPost. And all of these things have actually happened to her. Um, you know what? I think this is true because
That's actually pretty accurate.
it is. I am slowly coming out of the broom closet myself to my friends and family locally. And for the most part, everybody's been pretty cool. There's only been one or two people, I think, that kind of blinked slowly at me like, okay, what does this mean? And
I always
then
pictured trolls for that. I'm sorry, I have kids, so I picture the troll
yes, the
blink.
blink, blink, exactly, or the minions or something. Yes,
Or not trolls. It's in Frozen. The trolls in Frozen.
yes,
Where they just do that blink.
exactly. Yeah, blink, blink. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there a couple people that have told, and they're like, "Yeah, we know you've been pagan for a while." It's like, but I didn't tell anybody. I didn't act like. I was like, no, you are. It's okay. It's like, all right, well, I guess you're my people, but so yeah, it's just
That
kind of
was
funny.
what my dad went with. He was like, that, honestly, that's like really non-shocking to me because it totally works for you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing I really do like about being an eclectic pagan is it's not specific. You don't have to do any one particular thing. You take different things and you tune in with different things, and you pick up different parts of it, and it all becomes part of your own personal practice. And it's not like, well, you're a Methodist. That's how you're going to practice. Period. It's like, but what if I don't
Yep,
want to be a
I
Methodist?
pretty well go with eclectic too, so
And
there's not really any set thing that I do. I kind of just, whatever sounds good, okay.
yeah, exactly. You roll with it. So totally, totally get it. So the next question is: are you a good witch or a bad witch?
It depends on the day.
Have you had coffee yet? I
Right.
don't
Have
know.
I
How
had
bad should
coffee
I be?
yet? Is it girl time?
Exactly. That's such a ridiculous question. So the response here is, first of all, not all pagans identify as witches, and we don't. Second, and that would also be
This is
like
true.
asking someone if they're a good Christian or a bad Christian. So if you're wondering if they do practice magic or what kind of magic they practice, then ask them about their beliefs and what kind of rituals they partake in, just like I did with you earlier. So yeah, if you introduce yourself to say Pastor Joe down the road, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm a Christian." He's like, "Well, are you a good Christian or a bad Christian?" "Well, I'm a pastor." It's like that doesn't mean anything these days. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, I was about to say that means nothing.
right, exactly. So it's just crazy. Why if you wouldn't say that kind of a question or ask that kind of a question to if someone that you go to church with, why would you ask someone who you don't go to church with that same kind of question? That makes no
Exactly.
that to me that one actually would come and make me a little grouchy. So you're
I
familiar.
think it's just modern media, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because
Oh
they
yeah.
portray either good or really bad.
Oh yeah,
So
the whole white
there's
witch,
no,
gray
like,
witch, black
they
witch.
don't portray any of
Mm-hmm.
them that are doing both.
Yeah.
One episode they're healing, the next episode they're cursing. No, that doesn't fit the storyline. It's either they're all love and light and healing and, dressed in white, or they're black, hail Satan, I'm going to curse you till you die.
Yeah,
And it's just modern media portrayal, really.
yeah, it really is. It really is. So it looks like we're about to go to a break, Gidget. So I'm going to put you on hold. Don't go away. We will be right back, and we will pick this up with Do You Worship the Devil?
Sounds good. I'm on iHeartRadio. No, that's good. I'm on iHeartRadio.
Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and you are joining me here in the Spaces Between. And tonight we are talking with Gidget and kind of reviewing an article. It's What Not to Say When You Meet a Pagan. And we're just kind of going through it because she is on her own path. She is currently at the novice level in her tradition. Now, just out of curiosity, you have 5 different levels in your particular tradition. Is that correct, Gidget? Are you still there?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I didn't lose you.
Yeah,
Yay!
I'm here.
And so how long have you been training with Tuck? Do you think, or do you know? Is it the first
It's
years?
coming up on 2 years.
Now, at each different level, are they all taken about the same time, or are you just?
No, I skipped number 1 completely.
Oh, okay.
I skipped initiate completely. He thought I was good enough to just.
Go for it.
So I started at number 2,
Okay.
and I was at that for a long time. I just recently bumped up.
Okay.
So, and he's like, "You're gonna sit there for a while." I'm like, great.
Now, does he have you studying books, or what's what do
A
you?
lot of it is oral tradition that didn't get recorded. His mentors recorded some stuff, and he has a book. I haven't seen it, and a lot of it's in code, so I wouldn't know how to read it until I learn the code. That'll come more when he's ready to pass it on to me, because he said that he would probably pass it on to me more than anybody else that he's working with. So that was cool. I was like, oh, cool. I got kudos.
Yeah, no, that is pretty awesome. So
Right?
I know in different traditions, there's a lot of that information is written in code, or is very verbal, or is hidden in various book of shadows, or journals, or
Yeah, there's a lot I don't know.
And yeah, exactly. But like a friend of mine, she grew up in her tradition. With her family was very Wiccan, so she grew up, and being very Wiccan. And there's a lot of information that was passed word of mouth as she was growing up, and as she was able to absorb and understand things. And other things, facts and information are often buried in randomness. Just like there's a whole school of thought out there that the books written by Aleister Crowley, excuse me, supposedly there's a lot of just random weird crap in there and BS, but there's also
He fascinates me.
He thought differently than everybody else. That's for darn sure. But yeah, in and amongst some of that other stuff, he actually has some real information in there. So I don't know. It's one of the fun parts.
Some stuff makes me go, huh?
Oh yeah.
No. And then other stuff I'm like, ooh, that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
So we get kind of picky choosy with what he writes. I'm sitting there going, yeah, no, I don't like any of this. And then other stuff I'm like, ooh, that's very interesting.
Yeah. Penchak is a little bit like that also. And I'm reading a book by him right now. So it's like The Inner Temple of Witchcraft, I think. It's a good as a good source of information. I'm pretty excited about it. So, and I'm still at technically it's a seeker level, I think is the way it's set up. Or if someone were to ask me about my particular path or tradition, I'm just pretty eclectic. So I haven't really focused into a specific tradition yet. And so yeah, that's seeker status because I haven't gone through the initiation process yet, I guess, or whatever. So it's learning about it's a lot lot different, I guess.
Yeah, we kind of skipped that. It was just like, hey, you want to try this? Okay.
Right.
He was
Exactly.
like, I'm skipping all that. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
If you
works
don't
for me.
have to do the groundwork because you already know, yeah, I totally understand. I understand. So, just before break, I asked the question, do you worship the devil? Or alternately, are you a Satanist? Is the next question in this awesome article. And so the article goes, the answer is no. As pagan author Sam Webster said in an email to HuffPost, Satan is part of the Christian pantheon and not any part of the pagan pantheon. So he's Christianity's problem, not ours. And
I always confuse them because I ask which Satan.
which
Satan's a
Satan?
title.
Yeah, exactly.
No. The way I believe it is Satan's a title, and it can apply to multiple different demons.
Yeah.
So, which Satan?
Depends on who got promoted.
And then they look at me like I'm stupid or something, and I'm like, well, in my belief, that's a title.
Yeah.
That's not an actual entity. That is a title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and the same here. It kind of goes back to the whole, oh, you're pagan, so you're going to hell. Hell's technically a Christian place. It's not really a pagan place. We look at the world differently. So Satan is Christianity's issue, not ours.
Then I answer with, I don't believe in hell, and then they look at me again like I grew a second head. So.
All right. Or horns out of the third one that you already had. Yeah, I totally understand. So,
yeah.
The next question is, so you're Wiccan? And the response is, just as not all Christians are Methodist, not all pagans are Wiccan. Paganism is not a single religion, but a family of unrelated religious paths. So pagan author John Halstead said in an email to HuffPost, consider the differences between a Catholic, a Baptist, and a Mormon. Pagans are at the very least that diverse, if not more so. And
more so.
Exactly. And in addition, many pagans follow an eclectic or non-traditional path, which means their paganism may be unique to them. So, I gotta tell you, I'm pretty sure that it's people, partly because of Hollywood, do associate paganism and Wiccan just as they're very synonymous. But they're not. It's two really different things. And
I actually got in a huge argument on if I even am a pagan.
How'd that happen?
Because it has to be, according to them, it has to be polytheistic. And I don't follow a polytheistic pantheon, ergo not a pagan. So I literally got in an argument with them that it can also mean nature worship. And they were like, no, it means polytheistic. You're not a pagan. I seriously got in an argument with people.
Now, was that
over the meaning of being a pagan?
That's crazy. Now, was that in person, or was that a social media thing, or was it just how did that happen?
It was on Amino.
Oh, really? That's something I have found through the social media. It doesn't matter if it's Facebook, Amino, Reddit, Instagram, or any of those other things out there.
It's in the community.
There are some people in the pagan community that are so 100% certain that their path is the only possible path, that they don't even allow for anybody else to think differently. And it's frustrating because
can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah, it's like, well, you're defeating the purpose of your path. You're not being true to your path. Do you realize that? And
yeah, I like learning about everybody's.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because how are you going to know what's really you? What's really your connection? If you're not learning those different things, and if you close your mind,
if you pigeonhole yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And if you close your mind to those other alternatives, how much of your practice are you closing off? And what rituals are you not going to partake in because you don't believe in them? If someone were to ask me to go to church today, I would probably go just because I'm a nice person, and if they're asking me that, they're probably my friend, and I'm okay with that. I'm not going to spontaneously combust.
Same. I don't necessarily know that I'd be enthused about it, but
No, not so much, but I'd go. And
I'd have to,
there's
fake the enthusiasm.
there's coffee there often. But there's parts of my
Just 'cause
family
it
that
freaks me
are
out a little bit.
right. But there's parts of my family are very, very, very conservative Christian, and I don't know that I will ever come out of the broom closet to them. If they don't know it already, I'm not going to tell them. Just no desire to. And because I don't want to deal with that their crisis of faith is basically what it is. It's not mine, it's theirs. And it's frustrating because
I
if
got
you
lucky
close,
in that respect. That's not my family.
you are lucky. Because yeah, there is just some things that when you close your mind to those possibilities, you're losing out on human experience and the potentials of not just magic in your the day-to-day life as a pagan, but just the potential for magic in your world, or that spirituality or mysticism. It's just
Yeah, I want to know about everything. I mean,
right.
I have a friend who's Jewish. I have
Mm-hmm.
a friend who's Persian.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know about all of it.
Oh yeah,
I love reading their posts. I'm like, I may not understand all of it,
mm-hmm.
and I'm going to pester you with questions,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't mean I don't want you to write it.
Exactly. And I think that openness to learning and seeing what other people are doing and experiencing is really a big deal when it comes to um, just our lives in general. If we're going to try to force everybody to be just like us, there's no creativity, there's no uniqueness, there's no specialness, and there's no growth. Because there's no challenge. So I think we need to keep that in mind across the board, not just in spirituality and religion, but to all aspects of our lives, education, politics, etc. Keep that open mind. Otherwise, you're not going to have that conversation. How are you going to learn more if you never open your
Yep.
mind to the potential of learning? So, all right, back to the article.
Yep, I agree.
Back to the article. The next one is, is it like Harry Potter? Man, I wish Hogwarts existed. I really did.
Though a Harry Potter wand would be flippin' cool.
Quidditch. I would love to play Quidditch. Or a hippogriff. I would love a hippogriff, to be honest. Any of that. I think it'd be awesome. But
I have Harry Potter fuzzy pants pajamas. They're amazing.
Sadly, life
sad
is just
to say.
not like Harry Potter.
Just plugging Harry Potter there.
There you go. It's frustrating though because people assume that whatever Hollywood does, that's what it really is. It doesn't matter, if it's mental illness. It doesn't matter if it's politics. It doesn't matter if it's space exploration, like Don and Brent were talking about on Paranormal Portal. It doesn't matter what any of it is. Whatever Hollywood does, that's got to be the real thing, which is just insane to me. Those are just normal people who get paid a lot. Their opinion means no less or more than mine, because that's just that, an opinion. They're not experts, most of them. So, yeah, no, I wish there were
according to Charms, you can vanquish demons with baking soda.
Oh, really? Yeah, don't try that one.
So hard.
Oh, that's horrible.
Just toss baking soda on them. It'll be fine.
Oh, that's bad. That's bad. That's
It
how
is bad.
people... I mean, that's like playing with a Ouija board. You don't do that.
Yeah.
No?
It was bad, but I couldn't help. I laughed. I died laughing. I was like, wow. But then I thought about it. I was like, I really hope somebody doesn't actually believe that.
Oh, I know. It's like...
Please use discretion, guys.
I know, right?
You're not
It's like
vanquishing a demon with baking soda. It's not going to work.
Exactly. There's this meme going around a while back that says, if you want to charge your iPod faster, throw it in the microwave. And people believed it and did it. And it's like, oh, no, you guys.
Oh, no, please don't. No.
Well, no, go for it because it's your money, honey. So, but yeah, that's just nuts. So, the next question is, do pagans go to church? The article response is pagan churches do exist and often have the same rights and protections under the law as other houses of worship. Some, but not all, pagans are members of the pagan churches and or take part in festivals and other events sponsored by pagan churches. Says Reverend Selena Fox, who leads a pagan church called Circle Sanctuary. Now, from what I understand in my research and such, is that a pagan church really is often associated with the sanctuary, and that means a specified or specific place for pagans and witches to go to do rituals or practice without necessarily having to deal with the public, because that's an adventure too. And I think
Right.
I wish we had more sanctuaries. I mean, you go into any community across the country here in the U.S., and there's going to be at least one church. Often there's 10 or 12. My little community, we even have a Quaker church, a Church of the Friends. Seriously, but we don't have a pagan church. We got everything else, literally everything else. Odd little community. Um, and we do have a place called the Gardenia Center here, and Black Tree just mentioned it on YouTube. And yes, it used to be the SSO back when the military base on our lake was much more active. So it's been a while, but now it's more of a community center, community hall. But there's a lot of other religious iconography there, and I don't know, it just feels weird sometimes to be a pagan and try to practice in a non-pagan space. It's weird,
Yeah.
but yeah.
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, you go 5 minutes down my street, there's at least 5 churches,
Mm-hmm.
at least, in 5 minutes drive down the street.
Yeah. Hey,
But there's nothing for pagans.
yeah,
Nothing.
exactly. And if you
Yeah.
get together, so
We do need some more.
yeah, so Black Tree is a friend of mine locally, and she and I are trying to kind of start a circle here locally in our community, and it's called a Hectic Eclectics, and we meet on the fourth or the last fourth, something like that, Sunday of the month, at 3 o'clock at the local Starbucks in Ponderay. So it's next weekend, and I gotta tell you, it's interesting. A couple of us get together and we chat about things pagan. The first time we did it, our tables were sitting right next to a Bible study. And so here we are talking about the goddess.
How'd that
And
go?
it actually went pretty well. They talked about their faith, and we talked about our faith, and we said hello to each other. I mean, just like two groups of people should do in a public setting. We were very civil, but I wish we could just
Nice.
go and do our own thing without having to worry about the public. So I went to a regional ritual here a couple months back, and it was good. It was interesting. It was for Beltane, and I enjoyed it, except for it was in a public park, and there was a group 20 feet from us playing rap music, and it just wasn't
What you would want it to be.
yeah, it was hard to really connect with the spirituality of it. Yeah, so then next,
See, I loved Beltane.
yeah,
I went
Beltane.
to Blue
Yeah.
Ridge Beltane
Nice.
in West Virginia because I have friends out there.
Mhm.
And it was at a retreat, and they closed it to the public, which was great. We had private retreat for 4 days. It was fantastic.
That would be
We
glorious.
we had the huge bonfire. There was drumming.
Mhm.
There was workshops you could go to. There was an inner sanctum tent that was for more adult rituals. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
There was the vendors that were set up under a pavilion if you wanted to go and, look at merchandise and stuff
Yeah,
for your
see,
craft. You
I
could
think
go
that's
do
awesome.
that. It was great.
I would love to go to one. I think that would be great. I think we have one coming up here in August or September that I would love to go to. Another one.
I want to go to more.
Yeah,
I still
absolutely. I do. It's kind of like getting a tattoo. Once you go to one, you want more. So yeah, definitely on my to-do list to go to more regional things as the budget and time allows. So the next
It
question.
was so great 4 days of camping.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like sleeping on the ground.
The only
So
bad part was getting the van stuck in the mud. Like, that was our only issue, and we managed to get it out with some pushing. So, hey, if that's your only issue your entire trip, you done good.
you did good. All right. So the next question in the article is, why do you worship trees? And the response in the article is, why do you, to a pagan who holds nature at the center of their spirituality, this question might sound glib. Try another route and ask them to describe their beliefs about the sacredness of the earth instead. So, I know.
I'm going to say, I don't know that it's worshiping so much as
Honor.
respecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't go out there and, hail tree.
That'd be kind of funny. I like now. So I have, and I've mentioned this before on the show. A little tree on my piano. His name is Groot. He sprouted from an from an acorn from the oak tree out in my yard, from my Yule log. So there's I'll have to send you a picture of him.
That's awesome. You named it Groot.
Exactly, and but so I have a real connection with my oak tree, of course, but I don't worship him. I honor him and I respect them. So that's all.
Right.
So the next.
But I could totally be down for worshiping Groot.
Right. So the next question is, are you going to turn me into a toad? And in the response is no, but you might seem like one if you ask this silly question. And that's true. Going back to Harry Potter's not real.
I'd probably try and mess with them and be like, depends.
Right?
You gonna make me mad?
Exactly. All right. So
let them think you can.
Wait, I'm going to hypnotize you. You'll think you are. All right. So the next question is, do you sacrifice babies? And the response is, well, crazy as this might sound.
That would make me laugh so hard.
I know, right? So it's a very common trope of pagan narratives. So anyone who saw the recent horror flick, The Witch, got a very good reminder of that, which I haven't seen it. I don't do horror flicks. Now,
I don't either.
Yeah. This was explained as the stereotype is indicative of a deep-seated fear and distrust of people feel towards pagans. As far back into human history as we can see, those bad people over there were always accused of sacrificing babies, he said. We wouldn't do it any more than you would. So, yeah, we're not going to sacrifice babies. It's not our gig. It's not our jam.
I demand your firstborn. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, and this last one is awesome. It really did make me giggle. So it says, you hold orgies, don't you? And, so it's a very common stereotype.
I mean, no, I'm just kidding.
Right? I know. So, very common stereotype is that all pagans are lusty and promiscuous. Now, some pagans do incorporate sexuality into their rituals, and some are polyamorous, but most aren't. And some traditions do hold private worship, skyclad, which is naked. Most will wear robes or clothes of some sort, and a lot of our worship is really just standing around in a circle singing. We're having fun. We're celebrating life. We're honoring the earth. It's not a wild orgy.
We had a bonfire with drumming and danced around it. Clothed.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of our practices are held outside, so you know what? It's the weather is not always cooperative. I don't know that I would like dance naked around a fire during Yule, for instance.
No, that in Illinois, really? I don't think so.
I live in Idaho. Yeah, no, not happening. This year,
3 feet of snow on the ground and 20 below? I think not.
Yeah. No, not happening. So, yeah. So those.
I'm in northern Illinois, not like southern. Okay, we're cold.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just crazy. You know, it is better just to approach people as if they're people. It doesn't matter what their faith or their practice is, and it doesn't matter who they are. Just like you don't walk up to a fat person and say, "Hey, you're fat." What are you gonna do about it? You don't walk up to a pagan and
Some
say,
people might, but
I know, but
it
it's
doesn't make it
so
right.
exactly, it's so disrespectful. And if that's not a question that you would like to answer, why would you ask someone else that same question? You know, people. I think so many people forget that just in day-to-day society. So, well, my dear, we are all out of time. Believe it or not. Thank you for hanging with me. I'll call you
Of
right back
course, I had
here.
fun.
Awesome. I'll touch base with you here in just a moment. I'm going to just wrap it up though. So, if for listeners, if you have any thoughts or ideas for future shows or articles you want me to share, by all means, send them over. My email is wildpaisley@gmail.com. That's WILDEPAISLEY@gmail.com. And you know, if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And just remember, you can hear me live every Friday and Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific time. My storefront is www.etsy.com/shop/Monarch Mountain Studio, and Mountain is MTN. So thank you for joining me tonight. Merry meet and merry part, and merry meet again, and have a good night.